Hour 2 brought to you by EMJ Marketing. Transform your audience with powerful presentations from EMJ Marketing's elite speakers. Check out their website for more information at emjmarketing.com. There are so many things to get to with Arash Madani, but I think as we bring the big man in, I want to start, Arash, with the National Hockey League. Statistically, the greatest race ever, if we are to believe the math. I'm bad at math, but 10 games tonight. Some could clinch. Some could go to tomorrow. It's been wild, man. Are you enjoying this race as much as a lot of the fans?
You know what I'm more intrigued about, Rod, than the race itself is just how it can all change so quickly year after year. Like everybody, like win when you can, because you never know. The Rangers go from being, President's Trophy winners to missing the playoffs. The Oilers are limping into the postseason. I have to think LA is going to be the favorite and likely going to win that series. The Oilers are that close to winning the Stanley Cup last year, and they could be a one and done. So, I think so often in sports we're like, okay, well, you got this far. Now next year you pick up where you left off. It's not the case. You have to start all over again. Your record is 0-0. You got to go through rookie camp and training camp and a preseason and 82 games, and so much can happen. So I'm just fascinated by the teams that were so good, what's happened to them. And then, part of it is the race. Like how fun would it be for Montreal to get in? But will they get in after your Chicago guys did what they did to them yesterday?
It's driving the Habs fans nuts. You and I both have a lot of Habs fan friends, and they deserve better to be in by now after the work they've done to climb this. But you're sitting there in Ontario, the Battle of Ontario. There aren't too many that thought this was coming down the pipe, man. What do you think's in store, assuming it happens where you live?
I think it's going to be a bigger story, the quote-unquote Battle of Ontario in Ottawa than Toronto. And I spent a few years in Ottawa, and I've been here for a long time in Toronto. I think for Leaf fans, it's not as much the opponent, now that it's likely not going to be Florida and probably not Boston. But for the Leafs fans at this point, I don't even think, Rod, it matters who they play. It's show us, prove to us that you can do it. At this point, bring on a KHL team, bring on a Western Conference team. It wouldn't matter. It's just do it. Can they do it? You look at it and you say to yourself, well, does Ottawa have enough firepower to keep up? At the same time, you wonder, all right, do the Maple Leafs have enough goaltending to handle what the Senators may give? So I think, Ottawa hadn't been in 8 years or something like that. I think for the Senators fans, for the city of Ottawa, they're pumped to be back in. The fact that it's the Leafs is kind of the icing on the cake in terms of giving it a little more juice. But I think in this market, after all these years of playoff failure, it's just gotta be the time. Because if not now, Roddy, if not now, especially with the Marner and Tavares contract situations, when?
Well, it's actually, you know what? Because Game Plus is headquartered in Toronto, I don't mind spending some time on the Leafs. Last hour, Jersey Jim Behringer was with us from NHL Full Press. We were talking about what are the biggest stories going into these Stanley Cup playoffs, because there are a lot. And the Leafs might be number one. Everybody's tired of hearing it, but they might be. Take us inside that team. What are the questions other than, maybe recap it, because you just said the goaltending might not be there. Marner has not been a playoff performer. Tavares has had a great year, but his contract's up. Berube's first year. What are we missing?
Yeah.
It's fascinating to break it down.
It really is. And look, goaltending has been an issue with this team forever. The lack of playoff performances have been an issue for generations, plural now. But I really think that what makes this whole thing fascinating is the contract situations of the previous captain and Robin to Batman or Batman to Robin, depending on the night, with Marner and Matthews. Look, William Nylander got the bag, and he has lived up to that contract and delivered. There is no question about it. But all of this is fine, Rod, but you got to do it in April and May. They've never done it in April and May. And how much does the Marner and Tavares thing now weigh even larger going into the summer based on what happens over the next 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks or beyond? And at some point, you have to actually perform in the playoffs. And I don't mean individuals. I really don't. Like, I think there's a lot on Marner, sure. But as a team, they've done nothing. So they've tried everything. It's got to work, doesn't it? Like, and if it doesn't, then what?
Well, Wayne is all the way out there in Victoria, BC. Viewer Wayne. But he says and he's a Leaf fan. He goes, if the Leafs don't go deep into the playoffs this year, then I will believe there is a curse. Are you willing to consider that possibility?
I'm not. Wayne, and I feel your frustration. I'm a Vikings fan, so Wayne, I get it. I spent my own dollars to fly to Detroit for week 17, week 18, whatever that was, and saw the dud. I don't think it's a curse. I think they're like the Leafs are like the Cowboys, right? In Dallas, the overvaluing of the incumbents that you have in-house is just so prevalent. There is there can sometimes be a delusion. Like what I always talk, especially now that we're around NFL draft time, Rod. There's a bias towards SEC players. There's a bias towards dudes who have name power and go to, power conference schools. I always say, what if you took the logos off the helmets, the logos off the jerseys, the nameplates off the jerseys, and gave somebody a black and white feed of the actual tape that you're watching, and then do the evaluation? Don't do it based on, oh, okay, well, that's Marner, he's good. That's Matthews, he's good. Oh, man, that's Dak Prescott. They gave him a lot of money. He's the franchise quarterback. Do the evaluation based on what your eyes are telling you on the ice, on the field, on the court, whatever. Not about, well, I just think there's an inherent bias that exists because of the name power of both organization and player.
The viewers are chiming in with some questions for you, not just Wayne. John says, Arash, thoughts on the Blue Jays start and the signing of Vladdy, etc.? I don't think I've got your take on that.
I mean, look, the Blue Jays knocked on the door for Shohei Ohtani and were the runner-ups. They were the bridesmaids there. The same with Juan Soto. And they knew what it was going to take. There's a lot of layers to this thing. And Roddy, you'll appreciate this from our CFL days. Remember when CFL free agency would roll around and American players, especially quarterbacks, like if they signed for 400 Gs, they'd get 300 of it in a signing bonus? And why they did that? It's because the taxes for out-of-country athletes, you're taxed at like 10 or 15% or something like that, not the highest tax bracket from a salary standpoint. The majority of Vlad's contract is a signing bonus. So his take-home money is actually going to be a lot more significant that way. There's also fear of a labor stoppage in baseball in 2026. When most of that money comes in the form of a signing bonus, they can't take that away from you. So I think from an economic standpoint, the way it was structured made sense. They had to do this, Rod. And sorry, who was the viewer? I missed his name.
John in Winnipeg.
Yeah, I just think, Sean, like, they had to do it. You go to that ballpark, and 3/4 of the people are wearing 27 jerseys. Vladimir Guerrero, the name itself in this country, because of what his father was with the Expos, etc., means so much. And at a time where you've just dumped $300 million in renovations, $400 million in renovations, and you've increased ticket prices and concession prices and the rest, you need your fan base to rally around somebody. So you think about the economics, you think about who he represents, what he means as a player. And then the majority owner of the team, Edward Rogers, sat up there yesterday, and we rarely see Edward Rogers publicly. And he brought up the W word, Rod. He wasn't shy about saying, we want to win the World Series. That's the mission here. And so when you see an owner spend this kind of cake on a player, you have to ask yourself, all right, is he going to continue on this trajectory with these contracts? And we're about to find out.
Different world than 92 and 93, but Vladdy's salary is more than the entire team from back then. But it was 30 years ago, I know. But I'm so glad to have you on, because I was in Dunedin a few weeks ago, and you would know this because you've been on the sidelines. Vladdy is the Toronto Blue Jays. And I know you'll tell me if I'm wrong, and I won't be offended. But everybody, the players are all looking at him. I feel like John Schneider is waiting for a approving nod from Vladdy. He's the team. He's the franchise. They had to give him the bag. You got to pay your guys. That's sports now, right? I'm not sure how many people realize that, Arash.
And look, a few things. At the press conference yesterday in the back of the room, George Springer was there. Anthony Santander was there. A bunch of the players were there. Mark Budzinski. He's not the face of the franchise. He's the heartbeat of the franchise. And honestly, I think he's kind of, and this is with all due respect to Tyler O'Neill and Cal Quantrill and Nick Pivetta, but today, he's Montreal born, he is the face of baseball in this country. You know, you go anywhere in Canada and bring up the Blue Jays, Vlad's the guy. You know, Jose Barrios may have been the opening day starter, and George Springer may have a World Series on his resume and had gotten a big contract, and on and on and on. But Vlad is the identity of the ball club, and he's the identity of the sport in this country.
And you can't blame the fans for saying, what about Bo? Because his contract's expiring. How, again, you know these guys. Well, if he's not extended before going to free agency, will he be upset? Should he be upset? What is it? How much of a priority is he, Bo Bichette?
Well, I think the season honestly has to play itself out, Rod, at this point, because Bo played half the games last year. Bo dealt with injuries last year. When Bo's been healthy and elite, he's been as good as it gets. And the issue has been Bo hasn't been healthy enough the last few years. And he'll probably be the first to tell you that. So in a lot of ways, this is a telling season for him, especially as a pending free agent. If he has an ordinary year, even a good year, it wouldn't surprise me if Bichette were to sign a 1-year deal somewhere, maybe Toronto, maybe elsewhere, almost like Marcus Semien did back in 2021, like a prove-it deal. Okay, we know what you're kind of capable of, but show us. And Semien played all 162 games in 2021, in the middle of the infield, right beside Bo, and Bo credits him with a lot of the habits and things that he learned. Semien had a monster season when he left Oakland to come to Toronto and got over $200 million from the Texas Rangers. I think Bo's in a situation where, unless it's a huge season for him, that he may be in a similar situation where, all right, show it one more time. Show what you can do, and then you hit free agency, and then you see what's out there for you.
Wise plan. I'll end it with this. The countdown clock has started at Lambeau Field for round 1 of the NFL draft. You're smiling already. There's a lot of intrigue. What's going to go on that opening night, man?
Well, Cam Ward will go 1. And then all bets are off. If you said to me, Rod,
yes,
that 4 quarterbacks go in the first round, I'm like, I can actually kind of see it. It could happen. If you said to me 2 quarterbacks go in the first round, I'm like, I can actually see it. that could happen. The fact that Shedeur is now having another private workout with the Giants makes you wonder, what are they talking about in that building? I don't see it as a smokescreen. I wonder who's driving that. You have a head coach and a GM on the hot seat. Is it ownership saying, we want to come in on this too? I just think the Travis Hunter dynamic in this draft is going to be so fascinating to follow. And there's a lot of talk about Abdul Carter, as there should be. But Jalen Walker out of Georgia, to me, is just so dynamic and so explosive. If he slides even a little bit, I think that's going to be intriguing. And whatever happens, and I could see him landing at 9 to the Raiders. But if Genty, the running back from Boise State, goes in the top 10, he owes Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley a dinner, because those two have taken the running back position from the priest is giving last rites to everybody in your profession to now being, boom, right at the top. And Genty's got the build, the explosiveness, the speed, the durability to be both of those guys. And if not for Saquon and King Henry kind of changing the narrative of the position for an entire industry, who knows where Genty would be taken later this month.
Well, the hype is off the charts, as it always is, and I'm enjoying every second of it. Arash, thanks for the time, my man. Let's do it again soon.
Great to see you, bud. Thanks, Vladdy.
Reporter of the Year, Arash Madani. As Jim Lang said this morning, there are reporters, then there are great reporters, and then there's Arash Madani. Pleased to have him spend some time with us. Sports update on the way and viewer takeover the rest of the way. We're live here on Game Plus Television, streaming live and podcasting wherever you enjoy your podcast.